Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gaurangita, 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 Jaya Gaurangita, Jaya Gaurangita, 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 Jaya Gaurangita, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Hello again, dear devotees. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much, Shriyas Prabhu, for recording this reading. And we're going to begin, as always, with reading the stories about Guru Maharaj. And the first story is called Raghunath Swami and Editor's Editor. Mataji Chiara, I see you're driving. I don't think you can read at the moment. I want you to be safe while you're driving. Shriyas Prabhu, would you like to read the story, please?
Yes, Mataji, I can read. Radhanath Swami, an editor's editor. A few months ago, I had the opportunity to edit Radhanath Swami's upcoming book, tentatively named Yoga of Love. When I received the book by email, I was both excited and apprehensive. Excited because I would be able to relish the condensed wisdom that Radhanath Swami packs into his writings. Radhanath Swami's speech is itself brilliant, permeated as it is with profundity, maturity, simplicity, and beauty. But his writings are simply astounding. I like to call them as English Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutra are the condensed aphorisms that encode the highest wisdom humanity has ever received. Of course, there's a difference, though both contain extraordinary wisdom. The Sanskrit Vedanta Sutras captivate by their complexity, whereas Radhanath Swami's sutras enchant with their clarity. So I was understandably excited to be among the privileged few recipients of a pre-publication manuscript of Radhanath Swami's latest book. But I was also deeply apprehensive. The very nature of editing is that it often brings out the differences between the author and the editor. Radhanath Swami is an exalted saint, a venerable monk, my foremost spiritual guide. I would normally never think of editing his writing, for it expresses sublime wisdom in superb language. Yet now, as a service, I was being asked to edit his writing. I didn't want to displease him by seeming presumptuous and giving suggestions about how to improve his manuscript. Yet, I didn't want to displease him by refusing the service he had given me. Finally, praying for guidance to do this service in a sensitive yet competent way, I started the editing. It was a 250 plus page manuscript, and it took a fortnight of some 12 hours work daily to complete it. When I mailed the edited draft to him, I just didn't know what to expect, his pleasure, displeasure, or indifference. To my great amazement, I received a call from his secretary saying that he was very grateful for my inputs. I was struck by the word grateful. It was I who had to be grateful to be considered worthy of this service. A week later, when I had gone to Mumbai for his birthday celebrations, he called me to his room and thanked me profusely. He said he had incorporated most of my suggestions and added with a sweet smile, "Last several days I have been doing your work." Relieved by his warmth and pleasure, I voiced my apprehension about editing the work of an exalted person like him. He reassured me, saying that he was very pleased, and asked me whether I would like to go over the whole manuscript once again to check whether the changes had been properly incorporated. I was overwhelmed, not just because he had considered my service useful, but also because in him any attachment to his literary creation was conspicuous by its absence. As an author myself who gets published in international magazines, I often have to incorporate the changes suggested by the editors of those magazines. So I know all too well how difficult it is for an author to change one's own literary expressions to satisfy another. As I heard Radhanath Swami speak, from his tone and speech, I could realize that his writing was not to fulfill any literary craving, but to be an instrument to share Krishna's message of love with the world. That's why he could be so open to suggestions. He saw he saw his writing not as his own creation, but as a contemporary rewording of Krishna's timeless message. And if anybody could help word it better, he was more than happy. When I contemplate on this experience in retrospect, I feel that though by my written comments I edited Radhana Swami's manuscript, he, by his own example, edited my heart to point out to the attachment, the ego, the pride of literary creation that reside there. He promptly incorporated the changes I pointed out. I am struggling to I am still struggling to incorporate the changes he showed me. Maybe I can stop here. Somebody else can read the next one. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Mataji Lakshmi Jaya, would you like to continue, please?
Sure, Mataji, thank you. Radhanath Swami's intentional mistake. When the editing of the book was nearing the end, Radhanath Swami told me to do a final proofreading of the 300-page manuscript. During our editing, the draft had grown by over 50 pages. He said, "After you finish, tomorrow we will send the manuscript." My mind started spinning at the thought of how I could complete the whole manuscript in one night. Fortunately, he got busy with some guests, and so he didn't ask for the manuscript till the next evening. When he called me, I had carefully gone through around 240 pages and hastily glanced through the remaining. I gave him the manuscript, wondering what I should do about the remaining 60 pages. Again, fortune favored me, for he, due to his other engagements, didn't finalize the draft till the next noon. By that time, I had carefully gone through the remaining pages. When I told him that some proofreading changes needed to be incorporated in the draft that I had given yesterday, he silently assented. When I pointed out that the spelling of Bhakti Siddhanta had been written as Bhaktisiddhanta, the second I was missing, he suddenly exclaimed, "You passed the test." Seeing the bewildered look on my face, he explained, "I had kept the spelling like that to see whether you would find it or not. Now that you have found it, you have passed the test." I didn't know what to say or even what to think. Laughing to see my confusion, he added, "Don't worry, I was just joking." To this day, I don't know whether Radhana Swami made that mistake intentionally or unintentionally. But I do know that there was a divine intention in that whole incident. When we do a service, we should aspire to do it the very best that we possibly can, and not to be satisfied merely because nobody can find any visible fault with it. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Radhanath Swami, The prayer writer. Raghunath Swami had a deadline for completing the editing of the book, but the deadline had come right in the middle of one of the biggest festivals of the year. He had to give discourses that thousands had come from all over the India to hear, and he also had to attend to guests who had come from different parts of the world. An ever-courteous host, Raghunath Swami, was hard-pressed for time, and so had no time to put into words the several ideas he had come up with to improve the book further. Consequently, our roles changed. He asked me to write several things, and then he would edit them. On the last night of our editing marathon, he told me, "This is a book about Bhakti, and Hanuman is well known the world over as a quintessential Bhakta. So we should write something about Hanuman in that book." Hanuman is the heroic monkey warrior in the devotional epic Ramayana. After a brief, animated discussion, we finalized what I should write. Suddenly he said, "You can come back after 1 hour and then we will edit what you had written." I was surprised at what seemed an unnecessary delay. Over the last fortnight I had at times worked for hours in his room itself, where I would write and he would edit, and in parallel he would write and I would edit. Now, when we had reached the last lap of the marathon, I wondered, why this delay? Anyway, I went to the room that had my workspace and returned after an hour. Alert as he always is, he probably sensed the question in my mind and said, "Do you know why I asked you to come after 1 hour?" When I shook my head, he said softly, "I had gone to the temple hall to pray to Hanumanji to guide us how to best glorify him in this book." I was speechless. In the beautiful temple at Mumbai that Raghunath Swami has inspired, there is an inconspicuous deity of Hanuman near one of the doors. Most visitors to the temple probably don't even notice his presence. When we were discussing about Hanuman for the book, I didn't even think about the deity, but Raghunath Swami, with his intense devotional alertness, not only remembered Hanumanji as the deity, but also delayed his work just so that he could seek the blessings of Hanumanji. The contrast between his devotional consciousness and my intellectual consciousness simultaneously dismayed and delighted me. Dismayed because I was seeing the writing mostly as a literary activity which I would excel at by use of my literary skills. Delighted because I was seeking the example of a person whose writing skills were far better than mine, but who was humbly offering prayers and seeking blessings to be able to write not a whole book, but a few paragraphs within a book. Generally, during my writing, I pray only when my literary skills fail me, and I am forced to realize that, without higher help, I am stuck. But Raghunath Swami was teaching me by his example of how prayer should precede action, not succeed action. I remembered how before Raghunath Swami had written his first book, The Journey Home, he had been asked, "Are you a writer?" He had humbly replied, "I am not a writer, but a prayer on one who offers prayer." Of course, he is not just a prayer, he is a writer, an excellent writer at that. And his excellence in writing comes from his scrupulousness in praying. His writing, being divinely blessed, doesn't just titillate the mind and impress the intellect, but touches and transforms the heart. From the depth of the devotion of his heart gushes forth the spring of his writing, a spring that cleanses and purifies all those who choose to bathe in it. I hope to be blessed with many, many more opportunities to bathe in that sacred stream. It's a different story now, right? Shri Prabhu.
Yes, ma'am. It's part of the same series, but we can
It's a
stop
part
here.
of the same series. Do you know how many of there are left?
One.
One. One. Okay, maybe we can read this one like that, kind of to conclude the
Sure.
story.
Yeah.
Deepak Prabhu, would you like to read, please? Deepak?
Yeah, sure, I can.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, so Radhanath Swami's Embrace. On the last day of my editing service for Radhanath Swami, he went through the draft that I had written about the glorious service of Hanuman to Lord Rama. After refining it, he called me to have a look at it. In his own inimitably sweet and humble way, he asked me, as he had asked often during the last fortnight, "Is that good?" As I read the changed draft, I marveled at how the text seems to have come alive. Radhanath Swami's excellence at descriptive writing has few parallels. He is genius at describing events and emotions, places, and people. Indeed, an early review of The Journey Home by the author Joshua Green stated quite insightfully, this book is a testimony to the power of words to express the affair of the heart. Of course, I would ascribe the power not just to the words, but also to the person whose heart is so sensitive to experience subtle emotions and whose words are so dexterous to express them. When I finished reading the revised, nay, enriched text, I turned to Radhanath Swami and said, "This is beautiful. What I had written was like a report, but you have made it into a drama." Radhanath Swami stated, smiling, not so much because I was praising him, but because the glory of the Bhakti of Hanuman had successfully manifested through his pen, or shall we say his keyboard. The selfless spiritual nature of his pleasure become apparent to me through the entirely unexpected but enchantingly unforgettable event that transcribed next. But before describing that event, I need to share a little background about Hanuman's bhakti. When Hanuman returned to Lord Ram after performing unparalleled heroic feats in his service, the Lord began being overwhelmed with gratitude, offered his gallant service the best that he could in those circumstances. The Lord offered Hanuman his own embrace, which was for the servant hero the greatest of all gifts. This endearing exchange was expressed in eloquent and heart-rending language by Radhanath Swami, and so I said to him, especially when Lord Rama embraced Hanuman, the emotions are coming out so sweetly over there. Radhanath Swami's smile became broader and he said, "Then I will embrace you." I was delighted to receive his long and sweet embrace, and as I thought, a bit self indulgently, no doubt, that he was pleased with my service of editing, probably in some small way as Lord Rama was pleased with the service of Hanuman. My joy knew no bounds. Later, as I reflected on the incident, the grave message that Radhanath Swami had communicated through this sweet exchange eventually registered in my dull mind. As devotees, we understand that the loving dealings between the Lord and his devotees are not just sentimental tales for pious entertainments or sweet stories from by a bygone era. They are they are eternal realities in the spiritual realm, which sometimes manifest to our perception as dramatic narratives and universal story. So, as devotees, our goal is not just to relish their literary eloquence, but to experience their devotion essence and to share that divine essence through our writings. Radhanath Swami was relishing Ram Leela at that exalted devotional level, and as my spiritual mentor, he wanted me to arise from my literary intellectual level to that divine level. And so he embraced me to give me an experience of his sublime love and to gently prod me to rise to the pure devotional level where I could constantly relish that divine love. I pray that the sweet memory of Radhanath Swami's embrace and the grave lesson taught through it constantly illuminate my year and life. Chaitanya Charan Das.
Yes, thank
Hare
you so much
Krishna.
for reading the beginning of this. You would like to share something? Share,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Mataji, I just wanted to share that the book Journey Home we're reading Journey Home now, and we read Journey Within. They're both just mind-blowingly simple, and the way the messages are. I mean, we spoke several times before that the Vedic wisdom is being expressed in English language in such simplicity that it just easily enters the heart. And Maharaj blends stories and philosophy and his own experiences and emotions so nicely, and it just comes together so nicely that it just feels uh you when reading it, especially with devotees, you feel like the lights came on and you can see everything clearly now. Until now we were in darkness and we couldn't see anything, and now lights have come on. Of course, after reading stops, the lights go back off. But at least during the reading, I feel that this is just unbelievably simple explanation of complex things of this world. And Maharaj, uh, knowing so much, after reading so much, it's not surprising anymore that Maharaj writes like this. um, yeah, there was one more thing about the first part we read in the the prayer aspect was also amazing, that Maharaj went in Hanumanji's deity. I don't know if anybody of you some of you might have been in Chapati temple. It's a very small deity in the corner in the back. There's one Garuda deity and one Hanuman deity in the back, and it's just, I feel like it's perfect because you either have Hanuman or Garuda in the front, in the center, but center is Prabhupada, and they're both exalted deities who feature in many temples, facing the deity. If Lord Ram temple, there's Hanuman in the front, or Vishnu temples, there's Garuda standing in the front. But here there's both in front of Gopinath. And Maharaj, even Hanuman Jayanti and such, they celebrate it there. In ISKCON, we don't celebrate that much, but Hanuman deity is there, so they celebrate there. And Maharaj went in there to pray for his blessings. So the the intentional mistake was also interesting that Maharaj put in there. But I just wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing. Shreyas Prabhu. Yes, I haven't been to that temple yet. Would like to visit. So when we hear something like this from a person who had seen the deity personally, it feels different. And definitely the aspect that Guru Maharaj prays to whomever he is about to express, he's seeking for blessings before doing anything. It gives us wonderful example of how we should do. And actually, in the beginning of the story, it made me remember about how Jaya and Vijaya ended up in this material world, even though they were so close to Krishna. They were just serving him personally, and just for the sake of Krishna wanting to just fight. He cannot do it in spiritual world, but he can do it in the material world. So it's like when our guru wants us also to do something, and we might come in a position like this, Prabhu would feel like it's not the right position for us to be there. But if guru wants, we have to remove all our feelings, like embarrassment and shyness, and just do, because this is what Guru wants us to do. So it could be sometimes hard, right, to be in that position, but doing what Guru Krishna says, this is our duty. So we have to go beyond our desires. Thank you so much for sharing the screen, and now we're going to begin reading Journey Home. Mataji Sunaina, would you like to read? Hare Krishna, Sunaina Shukla. Mataji Lakshmi Vijaya, would you like to read, please?
Sure, Mataji. Often, the most precious gifts of life come in ways we neither plan nor expect. Some say it is due to chance, others cite karmic destiny, and yet others believe the Lord may intervene in our lives at any moment. One afternoon, as my awareness drifted away from my meditation toward the hymns of Mother Ganges' rushing current, her powerful, gentle waves seemed to be singing an anthem of wisdom and love. Held captive by that sweet song, I listened effortlessly. This became my meditation. From dawn to dusk, I simply meditated on the song of the river. Days later, while sitting in the crisp winter breeze, I gazed up at the Himalayan sky. Puffs of milky white clouds hovered from a limitless sapphire dome. Below me, the current swirled, rippled, and foamed. The sound of the river was a symphony that released me from the shackles of my thoughts. From the river's song emerged thousands of celestial voices, all chanting in unison the sacred syllable Om. The sound captured my mind. Another evening, as the sun was setting, I observed golden winter clouds floating in the deepening blue sky. The mountains were cloaked in a grown up, in a gown of purple and appeared to alive. I felt, appeared so alive. I felt them to be breathing. Flocks of white cranes, black nightingales, green parrots, and birds of vibrant blues, reds, and oranges soared across the sky, each chirping, warbling, or trilling its own sweet song. Except for the bird song, that evening the Ganges Valley was still with an almost mythical silence. My mind floated, recalling how God had taken from me so little and given me so much. For a moment, I contemplated that to the degree one feels unworthy of grace, one will be grateful when it comes. It is gratitude that makes the heart receptive to receive the Lord's blessings. Closing my eyes, I merged again in the endless chant of Om, the river song. It was just so beautiful. I felt on the verge of something extraordinary. Then I heard something that seemed to ascend from the depths of Mother Ganges' heart. The choir of thousands of celestial voices sang a slow, entrancing song that seemed to reverberate throughout the river valley. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Through the song of the river, I felt God had whispered this beautiful mantra into my ears. It was a mystical rite of passage, carrying me on a wave that lifted me closer to my aspiration. My heart soared with gratitude. Inadvertently, I found myself breaking my long silence and singing these words aloud with the river. No intoxication on earth could come close to that experience. The meaning of the song was unknown to me, but it stole my heart. What did it mean? I believed that this mystery, like the mystery of the picture of the blue boy, would be revealed in time. In sacrificing the song of my harmonica, I had inherited the song of the Ganges. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Mataji Chiara, are you available to read now? I'm still busy. Shreyas Prabhu, would you like to read?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. At the month's end, I was more than ready to end my fast. Remembering a peanut vendor in a shop near the Chotiwala restaurant at the Swarga Ashram, I ventured there with 1 rupee that a pilgrim had donated to me, then the equivalent of approximately 12 US cents. expecting a handful of peanuts in return. But when the shopkeeper saw 1 rupee, his eyes lit up and he quickly patched together some old newspapers to form a large shopping bag and filled it with peanuts. Quote, "Today I will feast," unquote. I rejoiced as I walked along the jungle path back to my cave. Deeper into the forest, I found myself face to face with a huge brown monkey who blocked the path like a customs agent. Growling and baring his pointed teeth, he sized up his victim with small, piercing green eyes. Thick brown fur clothed his muscular form. He had a bright pink face scarred from past battles, gnarled pink fingers, and shiny pink buttocks. Suddenly he sprang on me. In one motion, he seized the bag of peanuts, swiftly kicking my chest to catapult away. Gasping, I stumbled back a few steps. When I regained my footing, I smiled, seeing that he had disappeared instantly into the jungle with the whole bag. Some of the peanuts, though, had fallen on the ground during the scuffle. Oh well, I thought, these will have to suffice for breaking my fast. As I stooped to pick them up, another monkey leaped from a tree, scooped up every peanut, and disappeared. I was not spared a single nut. As I proceeded to my cave for the night, my stomach rumbled. Compared to the treasure of spiritual experience, worldly acquisition is like those peanuts, I thought to myself. People lie, cry, and die for a few of these peanuts. They fight and struggle for a handful. Wars are waged over them. But at any moment, a monkey, another's greed, or even the inevitable march of time may plunder from us our cherished peanuts. The next morning, I traveled by foot to the far end of the Ganges bank in Rishikesh. Climbing up a mountain, I arrived at Shankaracharya Nagar, the ashram of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. In this hermitage, earthen pathways wound through ancient trees, fragrant bushes, and flowering vines, leading to quaint huts for meditation. Further on, I found myself at the brink of a steep cliff that offered a spectacular view of the river Ganges. Near the edge of the cliff was the simple home of Maharishi. Entering, I found myself in a room with a flower adorned altar. On it was a picture of the Maharishi's guru, Brahmananda Saraswati. He had a white beard. His long white hair was combed back from his clear brow, and he was sitting on a tiger skin. An esteemed yogi, he was the first in over 150 years to be awarded the post of Shankaracharya of the Himalayan region, Jyotirmat, a role similar to a pope's. In the morning and evening, the residents of the ashram came together in Maharishi's puja room to chant hymns, offer articles of worship, and conclude the ceremony with group meditation. Somebody told me that Maharishi preferred to meditate in the basement, a dark cave like cellar into which few descended. The cool, silent cellar turned out to be my favorite place to meditate also. It was here that I especially felt the Maharishi's presence as a deep peace and serenity permeated my mind and body. Maharishi was born in 1917 in central India and graduated with a physics degree from Allahabad University. For 13 years, he served his guru, Brahmananda Saraswati, in the position of secretary. Before departing from the world, his guru gave him this order, quote, "What I have taught you also contains knowledge of the technique for the householder, which has been misinterpreted and forgotten over the centuries. Don't think of money for traveling here and there. Don't worry and don't be afraid of being alone. Don't be anxious about anything. Begin working and everything will go by itself." Unquote. To prepare for his mission, Maharishi entered the caves of Uttarkashi for 2 years of solitary meditation. Then in 1955, he began teaching Transcendental Meditation, TM, and established his hillside ashram at Rishikesh. From 1957 on, he began his travels across the world.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Hare Krishna.
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi taught that by practicing TM, our consciousness enters into finer and more subtle states. The goal is to enter a state more subtle than our ordinary states of wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep. To meditate, then, is to experience a consciousness beyond the subtle existence of the mind and ego, for it is in the liberated state of pure being that we experience the eternal self. Maharishi was especially creative in harmonizing modern scientific technology with the ancient sciences of yoga. Although the Maharishi was abroad while I was there, under his inspiration, the sanctuary of his ashram, I read his books, The Science of Being and Art of Living, and 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Every evening at Shankaracharya Nagar, I spent time with an Australian sadhu named Bevin, a leader of the ashram and one of Maharishi's closest disciples. Together we met in his hut, where we listened to reel tapes of the Maharishi and discussed his teachings. I remember hearing the Maharishi say in his high-pitched and often giggling voice, "Here we make an empty promise of heaven after death, but the positive experience of heavenly bliss during lifetime. Come, whoever desires it." His technique was simple, only 15 to 20 minutes of effortless meditation in the morning and evening, and no need for lifestyle changes or religious and philosophical adjustments. He taught that life is essentially bliss, that we are essentially beings of bliss, and that TM can bring us into TM, Transcendental Meditation. TM.
It was here, Transcendental Meditation.
Yeah. Can bring us into contact with this blissful state of being by directing our minds natural by gently directing our mind's natural tendency to seek after happiness toward the inherent happiness of our being. He would sometimes refer to this as watering the root and enjoying the fruit. It was winter and quiet. Hardly another foreigner besides Bevin. I turned up at the ashram. Bevin told me how only a couple of years earlier the Beatles, Donovan and Maya Farrow, and his sister Prudence had visited and stayed with Maharishi. Since that time, the influence of yoga and meditation was spreading throughout the world. Meditating in that sanctified forest and sleeping on that mountain top were priceless gifts. On 3 occasions, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi appeared in my dreams. He sat cross-legged, holding a flower, his long graying hair and beard merging with his flowing white robes. Soft light emitted from his rounded face. Although a physically small man, his presence was immense. His soft but penetrating gaze seemed to be calling me into a realm of timeless peace. He didn't speak, but simply smiled upon me, closed his eyes, then disappeared. In time I returned to the solitude of my forest cave, where I asked myself why I left the Maharishi's ashram. After all, I had only enlightening experiences there. Obviously, the Maharishi was a powerful, loving force, and everybody had been so kind. Why did I move about like this? Again and again, in the months to come, I would ask myself this question, and each time would conclude that I wished to learn from many paths and teachers before I committed myself to one. Until I gained the faith to dedicate my life to a path and a master, I reflected, I will remain a wandering pilgrim. One morning, while walking along a forest trail, a sadhu with a curious smile plastered across his face stepped right in front of me, refusing to let me pass. His almost shaped eyes squinted into mine. He had a tiny nose, flat face, cropped hair, and copper complexion. Who was this man? What did he want from me? I have been sent for you, he said, but you do not recognize me. Surprised but silent, I wondered what was about to transpire. He gripped my hand. The greatest of saints lives in a cave nearby. My mission is to bring you to him. How do you know me? I asked. That you do not need to know. Follow me. Intrigued, I followed the sadhu, who told me he hailed from Nepal into the depths of the forest where we walked along a stream on an overgrown path. As we passed, we crunched the twigs and trampled the foliage beneath our feet while rustling through the bushes. To our left, wild boars scuttled into the brush. We approached a clearing where my guide pointed up to a mountain top. There I could see the smoke-blackened entrances to 3 caves. The Sadhu led me up a set of narrow stone steps that were more like a 30-foot ladder carved into the steep rock. After climbing to the top, we entered one of the caves where a fog of smoke burnt our eyes. There in a lotus posture with back erect sat an amazing being. His thickly matted hair extended beyond his back and several feet onto the ground behind him. About 6 feet tall, his physique was powerful. He wore only a robe around his waist and a loincloth covering his groin. His eyes were closed in meditation. He seemed to have entered into another world, a world far beyond time or space. An aura of indescribable tranquillity emanated from his motionless form. This was Mahavirdas Tat Vala Baba. Deepak Prabhu, would you like to continue, please?
Sure.
Can
Yeah. Um, we sat beside him, waiting patiently. The scent of smoldering woods from his sacred fire blended with the earthiness of the ancient cave. Holy Sanskrit scriptures lay on a stone shelf. His wardrobe, a wrapper of old burlap, was folded beside him. The Nepalese sadhu told me that he often meditated all night long. Let us wait patiently, he said, until he comes out of his spiritual trance. Finally, the yogi opened his dark, shining eyes and stared into mine with that intensity of laser beams. My guide served as a translator. In a deep, compelling voice, the Baba spoke, God is one, and everything originates only from Him. Lifting the palm, he touches his index finger to his thumb. The cause of all suffering is when we forget our identity with God. That is called Maya or illusion. God is everywhere. You need not search to find Him. If you call Him with sincerity, He will reveal Himself to you. God sees within the heart, not the externals. There must be no duplicity. You may wander through the jungles your whole life, but God is within your heart. When you meet Him, there you will see that He is everywhere. I was struck that He seemed to address my deepest concern. I was a wanderer looking for God in my heart. The Baba's hand then rested on his knees. His dark eyes emitted power and vibrancy and seemed to read my mind. People are chasing the temporary. Do you not see that they are on the road to death? His every word seems like a sword cutting my own selfish conditioning. You have renounced worldly life. This is good. Do not go back. Meditation will bring you supreme peace. We spent the hours listening to him. I left with the promise that we would return the next day. After climbing back down the ladder of stone, the sadhu and I were greeted by an ascetic woman in a simple white sari with a long black braided down her back. Mirabai and her husband live in the forest and they cook meals for all of Tatwala, Baba's followers. She promptly invited us to her home. Would you like to hear about Baba? She asked, and as we follow behind her, yes, I replied. The Nepalese sadhu nodded. Well, she began. Baba was from the state of Punjab. From early childhood, questions burned in his mind. When he saw the suppression of the Indians under British rule, he wondered why a country with so many saints and scriptures did not have a solution for his suffering condition. Burning with the thirst for enlightenment, As a child, he abandoned his home to search for a guru. First, he went to Ayodhya, which is Lord Ram's birthplace, and then entered into the forest of Himalayas, where he met with his guru. At the feet of his master, he learned the path of enlightenment. The three of us approached a hut made of clay and straw. Mirabai graciously opened the wooden door and invited us in, offering us a mat to sit on and a clay cup of water. She asked, "Shall I tell you more?" "Please," I urged, savoring the cold water she would collect it from the stream. Since the age of about 16, Baba has remained in these caves. He subsists on only wild herbs and fruits and wraps a worthless burlap cloth, which we call tut, around himself for clothes. That is why he was given the name Tatwala Baba, meaning a Baba or holy man who is clothed with burlap cloth. When she went on to say that for 15 years he lived in seclusion, perfecting the practice of Ashtayang Yoga, gradually people recognized his enlightened state and started coming to him. He never allowed anyone to touch his body or cook for him. She took a deep breath and opened her eyes wide in awe. With my own eyes, I have witnessed his power to read people's mind, see into the future, and heal the sick. In fact, when a yogi had unbearable migraine headaches, Baba came to him in a dream, removed a white fluid from his head by mantra, and cured him forever. I felt so privileged to be there. She directed our grace to a photo she kept of a Baba on her small altar, and with folded palms she asked, "Would you like to hear more?" We nodded eagerly. Baba meditates for long hours and sometimes for days. He keeps the sacred fire always burning and daily ponders upon the scriptures. Then she returned to me. "You have come all the way from America to become a sadhu. I honor you bravely. I will pray that you achieve your goal."
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Mataji Sinayana, would you like to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Krishna.
Before saying goodbye, she placed in my palm an unusual sweet made of translucent green pumpkin cooked with crystallized sugar. It immediately melted in my mouth, bursting with flavor. I had never tasted anything like it. Seeing my reaction, she said softly, "This sweet is called petha. Do you like it?" "This is my very first sweet in India," I replied. "It is amazing. But do ecstatic yogis eat these?" She smiled like a mother towards her curious child. "You will be surprised to see what yogis may eat." The next day I returned to the Baba's cave. After some time, my Nepalese friend left me alone with Tatwala Baba, who sat immersed in his meditation. The whole night passed, yet he did not move. Absorbing his peace, I meditated close by. The sun rose, gently illuminating the green Himalayan jungles with a veil of gold, exposing the higher mountains in the distance, considered by many to be the abode of God. Far off, I could see Mother Ganges winding her way down from the heights to the plains, through forests and valleys spotted with sages performing their worship on her banks. From my place on a straw mat, I gazed below into the lush foliage, and as time passed, I began to notice large, colorful snakes coiling through the jungle looking for prey. I saw wild elephants grazing on the trees, and even the occasional spotted leopard moving through the green. A picture flashed through my mind of my neighborhood in the Chicago suburb of Highland Park, with its flat manicured terrain, child children boarding the bus to school, and parents driving off to work. I couldn't believe where I was. Nearby to the Baba's cave, where other caves were several of his ascetic disciples resided and where I lived for some days. Inside Baba's cave, inhaling the astringent smoke from the sacred fire that burned through day and night, I felt purified. As he sat with his back erect, Baba would read from scripture for about 3 to 5 hours. The rest of his time he was immersed in meditation. If he rested at night, he woke several hours before sunrise to meditate, study, and perform yogic asanas. In mid morning, he wrapped his matted hair into a huge coil on the top of his head and took me to bathe in stream and collect a pot of water. On the way back, he collected herbs and fruits for subsistence and wood for the fire. Once I saw him effortlessly lift a huge log and carry it back to the cave. On one early morning, as the trilling of birds filled the forest, Baba, through our Nepalese translator, gave me a good jolt. I welcome you to spend the rest of your life in our caves. This is my invitation to you. He then closed his eyes, entering into a trance. His words reverberated in my mind while I pondered the seriousness of the decision I had to make. One morning I came out of my meditation and thought it would be a blessing to live under the guidance of such a holy man in this sanctified forest. Still, if I dedicate myself to following a guru, I should never disgrace him by changing my mind later in life. I wish to find a master and a path that I can dedicate my life to. I asked myself I asked myself whether I was certain that he was my master and this my path. Moments of thoughts passed, then the answer came. I had experienced great inner awareness and inner joy while meditating with Tatwala Baba. Still, I was uncertain. There was a pulling in my heart to meet the holy people of India and visit the sacred places to experience the many varieties of spiritual paths. Then and only then would I feel I could make the most crucial decision of my life. My mind rested, feeling that this was an honest approach, but I had to be careful about how I revealed my decision to Tatwala Baba, for I was not dealing with an ordinary human but an extraordinary man with supernatural powers. Several days passed in this way. In his company, my meditation brought indescribable experiences. Finally, when I was about to reveal my thoughts to him, he already knew. He already knew. Before I could open my mouth, he spoke the words I planned to speak soberly. He gazed into my eyes and extended his palm. Goodbye. May God be with you. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Krishna. Thank you so much for reading it, Jasmine. Dear devotees, we're going to stop reading here. Let's discuss what mostly struck you today. What would you like to take with you in the lessons?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I wanted to share before we start discussing, I wanted to share Radha Swami Maharaj's website. In the About section, there is the history and the particular cave where Maharaj was living in the Himalayas. His picture is there. So we're reading about this one. Maharaj was living here and near the bank of the Ganges. And the particular letter we read last week is also, the image of picture of the handwriting. And I don't know who has this letter. Maybe it was in Chicago, but they have this already. It was amazing to see this cave Maharaj was living in.
So cool. Thank you so much for sharing, Shreyas. Yeah, thank you for finding. Somehow this website never works for me when I try to leave any donations. I don't know if it ever worked for you.
What doesn't work, Mataji?
And to leave a donation, if I want to leave donate for one of his projects, never worked for me.
Leave the nation,
Mm-hmm.
the country. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know to donate money for any of his projects?
Oh,
No?
donations for
Yeah.
Maharaj.
Yeah, it doesn't work through this website.
Oh, through this website. Oh, I never did this through this website. Maybe we can ask. I think I know who made this website. It was in the transcription group, the devotee. I can ask. They refurbished the website. Is it not working even with the new one?
Mm.
Have you tried with the new website?
I'm not sure, but not long ago. I think I tried again. I think
Okay, I will ask.
please.
Krishna.
Your devotees would like to share anything? Not about what we read. Maybe you want to share something about you, or how are you feeling now in your life, in your spiritual journey?
I'm just feeling so grateful that we are able to read Maharaja's life with all of you together.
Yes, we feel the same. Thank you so much, Mataji Lakshmi Jaya. Thank you for joining us. I hope your
Thank you,
health
Mataji.
is good today.
Yes, Mataji, I'm feeling better. Thank you so much.
I admire, Guru Maharaj's dedication or being so truthful to himself and so honest in his choices. Like, even though for him it was something very important, but he kept on being on this spiritual path, spiritual search until he actually felt um, sure, of his feelings, of his chosen guru. And because of his path, so many people around the world were able to learn um, about different paths and also how it is all interconnected, and how actually it is beautiful that we are all different people from different nationalities, different countries, and we all have different paths. I mean, maybe not in this group right now we're reading, but in general we're saying um, if it wasn't for all these different paths, it would be like in a way like boring, right? So Krishna has like unlimited, right? So everybody has this different taste and a way to come to him, different approaches. So I'm still trying to embrace this. I guess this vision of unity in diversity.
We are here today because Maharaj did not take any of the other paths and came to Vrindavan, Mathura on that day. I feel like if Maharaj had spent his life in the cave with one of these or one of those ashrams in the mountains, we would have never met him.
That's true. That's very true.
Krishna had plans, Prabhu, so that we all could connect to him.
But also funny for me to read when Guru Maharaj was saying about, how he got these peanuts and this paper. But it reminded me of my childhood. Back in Russia, we all used to, like, old women, they would sell this, not peanuts in Russia, they sell sunflower seeds, like fried sunflower seeds, and they would always wrap them in this newspapers too. And everybody would go out, and all we do is eating this sunflower seeds. I remember how we were like so addicted to the sunflower seeds. It was like a big part of our culture and our life. As soon as you go out, you need to buy this packet of sunflower seeds and just eat it while you're on the street. Crazy thing. I'm glad I'm out of it now. Out of this habit, I can live without sunflower seeds.
Still get these peanut newspaper packs on train stations in India.
Yeah, you do.
Still get those. Probably costs more, but still there. Sunaina Mataji wanted to say something, I think. Hare Krishna.
Actually, Prabhu, I was agree with you when you said means if Maharaj was means Maharaj chose that life in means living in caves and Himalayas, so we would not have met ever to Maharaj. And yeah, that's it. That's very true.
Thank you for sharing, Mataji, and thank you for joining today. Guess we're going to conclude here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhuseva cha pasitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Shubhra ki
Jai.
jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai. Hare
See
Krishna.
you, dear devotees, next week, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you all.